$650 billion was allocated in special drawing rights SDR by the International Monetary Fund in 2021 to provide expedite mechanism for concessional liquidity at the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic. With about two-thirds, $420 billion of the allocation headed to developed economies, the major balance awfully falls for the developing countries such as Uganda, whose SDR quota currently stands at 361 million. It's on this basis that the African Forum and Network on Debt and Development, AFRODET, together with Uganda Debt Network, UDN, have called for a robust restructuring of IMF's special drawing rights SDR system, citing disproportionate tendencies.
There was a campaign by civil society organizations, including AFRODET and UDN and other partners, to ask the IMF to release special drawing rights, and it was agreed in 2021. But what IMF did, it issued 650 billion USD for in terms of special drawing rights. But what happened to the continent of Africa? It was given only $33 billion to share among the 54 African countries. So we already see an inequality right there about when you look at the distribution.
We are saying, if Uganda is getting $600 million and a country like maybe US gets $1 billion, and they do not need that money, so why wouldn't they sit down as World Bank, as IMF, of course, together with World Bank, and say, okay, we know you have so much as what is entitled to you as a quota, but my friend Uganda here, who is suffering, has only one. And you actually might not need this money. Can we allocate this money to these poor countries? And so that then they boost the economies.
During the 2021 general SDR allocation, developed countries which are least likely to require liquidity received approximately $450 billion, constituting almost 70% of the total allocation, although this follows caution over the past pandemic burden at the most affected regions.
The SDRs, we think they are not fair. Why they are not fair, SDR is member countries of IMF, they have quotas depending on how you contribute. So the bigger economies have bigger share. The smaller Ugandans have a smaller share. So they based on that quota to give those SDRs. We got like $600 million, I think. That's what they allocated to us, and I think so far they've given us about 490 million. That money is put in the budget to boost the economy, and much of it started by the COVID-19.
Kenya's Fidelity Nisihimana, who doubles as the campaign and communications officer at AFRODET, underscores the need for IMF's SDR restructure and the importance of ensuring that SDRs are directed to countries that require them most.
IMF could be a good institution. It could be. But it's a very imbalanced, it's a very unequal system that does not help Africa to rise. So what we are actually asking for in this conference is a restructuring of the IMF and the World Bank. Without a restructuring, they'll keep on sinking African economies into deeper debt, into deeper poverty, into deeper vulnerabilities. So we need the IMF and World Bank to be restructured.
Figuratively, Africa received $33.8 billion in SDR, $139.4 billion for Asia, $6.9 billion for developing Europe, and $51.5 billion for Latin America, plus the Caribbean, representing a cumulative 35.7%, and thus a disparity in the contrast of the big powers. Pedson Mumbere, Smart24 TV, Business Today.